Hi, this is Erin Zimmerman, owner of Elephant Social, and welcome to ChatConnect, a web series where this season I will be speaking with some badass lady entrepreneurs who are here to basically rule the world. Today I'll be speaking with Shari Teigman, a free rebel spirit, soul explorer, transformational coach, and business sparkle maker with a passion for living life as colorfully as possible. She also happens to be one of my favorite people in the world. And without further ado, here I am, Erin Zimmerman, with Shari Teigman. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on.
I am doing so well. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you that don't know, Shari is magic. Truthfully, she's a unicorn. I've actually described you to a few of my friends as a unicorn.
No pressure.
I don't know how else to describe. There's like no other way. I'm not comparing you to a unicorn because you are your own person. But I want to know, how did this journey to becoming the Shari you are now, how did that happen?
It's actually a great question. I don't know if I know the exact answer, but I do have a perspective on it that I will share that I think is important for people to know, because I believe that everyone has magic in them, which is my whole driving force of what I do. So I think that I was like this as a young child and then lost it for many years and then took a nice stretch of time in the middle, a good 25, 30, maybe more years to come back to myself. So I think the reason that it's magnetic in the way that it is to my people is because I rediscovered it. I recreated it. I didn't stay like this, so I appreciate it in a different way. And I think the manner in which I appreciate it and live it so fully, well, as realistically, as fully as a regular human can, no one stays in the zone all the time, but it's so precious to me because I refound it that it's something that I pay a lot of attention to. So I think that's what you sense when you are, talking about that unicorn thing.
Yes. Well, and is it something that you think someone can be like, I want to find the magic, and then they find it? Or is it something that just kind of happens?
So great question. I think that people look at passion and purpose and magic as something that you either have or don't have. I don't believe that's true, but I also don't believe that it's, just turn the light on. I think it's very childish and naive to think that it's, oh, well, once I find it, it just goes on. No, we have a lot of patterns and habits that keep us from keeping the light on. So I look at it as, I call them passion crumbs. They're little pieces that come together from throughout your life that make you who you are, that spark that magic. And then, the spark goes down. Like, it doesn't stay lit all the time. It's not this eternal flame, unless it is, and that's awesome. Then you're not searching. Cool. So I think that it's something that you grow and you develop. So like I said, I refound this in myself, but I didn't know how to keep it on at all times. I had so many old labels and identities of who I was without the magic that I'm like, well, where do all the pieces fit? So I think it's more about creating a life and a business and a dream and a purpose, mission, whatever your angle is around that, called like this glowing green ball, which is your magic. And then you create an environment that fosters it to grow more. That's a safe place for it to develop, that you don't feel silly or stupid being that magical thing, that it's not irresponsible to only focus on that. And then you're not taking care of your relationships or your finances. It's not separate compartments. It's something that fuels and drives each part when used properly, in a timely manner, appropriately, and authentically. Because we say, oh, it's just turned on, and then you start living this phony new version of yourself, which isn't real, because sure, it's pretty, but how does it fit? What does it actually do? What does it give you? What does it test in you? What does it trigger?
Right.
Well, and Shari answer.
Well, no, any of your answers are great. I love it because I'm so curious about it all. Like, I am wearing a unicorn dress today.
She's the best.
That's just like part of, I don't know, part of me growing into myself a little bit. Like, it's the first time, not kidding, where I put on something and immediately was like, I'm going to get it. I don't care. Like,
but that's the trail. That's the passion trail. It's about a feeling. It's about, as soon as you start to notice when you're feeling something different than you were, that's when we start to follow them. And I say this all the time. My work is based on curiosity and play. Why? Because if we try to think our way out of how we got to where we are, you're never going to get anywhere. It's just physically not possible. Speaking for myself as well. If I speak from the fearful people pleaser part of myself, I ain't going to be magical that day. So it's about, ooh, this is funny. This is fun. What if I did this completely differently than I've ever seen myself or anyone else do it? Or I don't care feeling. Those are the pieces that you start to gather in your toolbox, and that's what builds this. That's the new foundation of how far out from the person I think I am can I go to become the person that I want to be.
Mm-hmm. And do you, let's see, I know some people have a personal and a public persona. Is there any difference at all between yours?
Great question. I work very hard to make sure that there isn't, because I can easily fall into that. When I started my business, it was split. I had a photo shoot in like flowy dresses and big poofy skirts, and it was very pretty. And I looked again like the Stepford wife that I left. And I looked at my pictures and I said, what the hell am I doing? I'm doing it again. Mm-hmm. And it's something I think we all have to be very conscious of, because sure, it's a lot fun to be the fun, perfect persona all the time, or the silly, crazy unicorn all the time. Do I have low days? All of the time. Mm-hmm. And I talk about them and I go there because I believe growth happens in the dirt, in the darkness. So am I on all the time? Absolutely not. I did that when I was younger, and it drained me so much that I lost this part of myself because I was using it like a mask. So I think for me, and a lot of people are not comfortable with showing all of the parts of themselves as their public persona. So maybe it's not an extreme version like I am, because I am extreme. I am extroverted. I am on a lot. That's just naturally me. But if, let's say, you're the soulful, quiet type of person and you have crazy times, don't hide that. It makes you more three-dimensional. It makes you more attractive to your audience. It makes you feel like more of yourself, so you stop retreating as much because you don't feel like you're in recovery mode. So the short answer is, I am all of the parts, and I try to show them all. You know, I don't need to be hanging my stuff out everywhere, but something goes on, I'll talk about it. A day or two afterwards, I want to process it, but I don't hide it. You know, people know my struggles with my ex-husband. They know how passionately I feel about being a mom. They know how difficult it is for me to live in the community that I grew up in, that I don't necessarily love all the parts of anymore. They know that I want more out of life. Like, I think it gives permission to people to then want more for themselves and say, oh, I don't have to then just become someone and move into a new box.
Right. Right. Well, and did you, your magical unicorn self that I just love about you, did that one day did you just think, why am I not being this person? Or was it something like, was it an event that happened that made you think I need to be more of myself? Or was it something that you felt over the years kind of like trapped in? So how did that unfold for you?
It's not pretty. It's not a pretty story, but it's important. I lost it completely over time. I was in a marriage that was not for me, raising two beautiful kids, living like I said, the Stepford wife, perfect meals. And I was president of the PTO, and I used my power in that way. So it wasn't like I was numb to the point where I wasn't doing anything, but I didn't feel anything. Mm-hmm. And I remember one day when my kids were little, I was watching back one of their birthday party videos, and I caught a glimpse of myself. And it shattered me, Erin. My eyes were totally dead. The sparkle that you see, long gone. I wasn't in the building. I had left. And it scared me so much that I said, I don't know what happened. I don't know who I am. I didn't notice that it was going because I was so busy doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing and rocking it, doing it perfectly because, you know, why not? That I had no idea what I wanted, and I had no idea who I was. I just started by knowing who I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be who I wasn't. And I kind of walked backwards, tripping and falling and getting up and falling again. It was not this pretty nice thing, again, which is why I'm so passionate about being this person, because I fought to find her again. It was like, oh crap, I forgot myself. I got to turn that light back on. I had no idea this was in here, but this is the real me. That's really scary to not be this.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine, because obviously I only know you as you, which is great. I'm glad that you've come to that, because so many people don't. And do you ever see anyone, regardless of their age, who is not being themselves? And do you ever spark conversation with them regarding it? Or is it
This is all I do all day long in my work, in the supermarket, in the playground. That's why it's such a passion of mine, because I'm my own ideal client a few years ago. Jaded and frustrated and scared and small, not knowing, not believing that there's something more, but still something inside of me not letting go of. Go, push, find it, seek. So this is all I do all day long.
Yeah.
Paid. I just want to light everyone. I just, with the sparkler, I just want to turn people back on at all ages, because life's too short to be numb. It just is.
I love that. Do you get any fight from people at the supermarket?
You know what? I'm very careful about being respectful of people's journeys. Like, again, I know because of who I was. If someone came up to me at that time in my life, I would have been saying a lot of not nice things. I'd be like, get out of my face.
Yeah.
It would have annoyed me. I wouldn't have understood it. And it would have triggered me to the point where I'd be like, get away.
Yeah.
So I at the start of my business, it was difficult for me to not be in savior mode. But Lisa Sharp, our mutual friend, had coined it perfectly. You can't be a turtle flipper. So you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I can't care more than someone does about their own life. And that was very hard for me, because I want to save everyone. It's not my role. It's disrespectful to their journey. And it's not cool. That's just not the way it goes. So I'm very conscious, even when it's hard for me, not to dive in, to see if someone's ready, to see if someone's open, just to drop a one-line comment, give them a soft place to land, open a conversation, and then leave it, which is hard for me. It's a challenge.
Right. I totally understand that. When I started my business, everyone's like, who's your ideal client? I'm like, everyone. I want to help everyone. Right. And it's like, it's one of those, I want to help people conquer the world, but you got to not take it down a notch, but you got to just get a little more focused, and then the magic will happen. Like, you'll end up touching people that you never thought you would.
You can't fire hose, right? You can't fire hose someone with information if they have no open place to put it.
Right.
I've tried. It doesn't work.
Well, and oh my goodness, you mentioned your two beautiful boys. So when it comes to your business and your personal life, how is that, raising two boys while running your own business?
It's been interesting, because I was a stay-at-home mom before my divorce. I never learned the work juggle. I didn't judge people who did it. I thought it was awesome that they did, but my thing was staying home, and I was a very on mom. I still am. But my business has actually helped me be a better mom, because my kids are 16 and 14. I can't helicopter mother them, and because I love them very intensely, if I didn't have my business, I would be on top of their faces and drive them crazy, which would be bad for our relationship. So it's actually given me a passion of my own to focus on, something to be proud of, something to put that love and care and affection and coddling into, and also makes me proud to show them what I'm building in front of them. They knew a different mom beforehand. So it drives me actually to do more in my business, because I'm proud of myself to show them anything's possible, because I didn't know that till I did it. So it is a bit of a juggle. It is hard, because I don't ever want to not be working. So, and because they're older and don't need as much from me, they're happy to be playing, and I'll be on my laptop. I have to manually remove myself and shut down, and not just send one more email or post something, comment on something. Like, they need my attention. It is a challenge for me. I'm not going to lie. But I work very consciously on, this is kid time, this is home time, because they don't need me in the same way. So it's like, we want to be needed. Well, my business needs me, so I'll go in there, and they're cool, but they're not getting all of me then. So when they deserve it. So it's a balancing act.
Right. Well, and as they get older, are they at the age where you can have the, not necessarily adult conversations, but like the conversations about why you've chosen the path that you've chosen, or how you've always been that person. Have you had those kind of conversations with them?
To a degree. I love them to death, but they're a little more muggle than I am. They're not made from unicorn, ashes.
Yeah.
But I think it's important because look, regular school and regular life and regular social media, whatever. This is how we train our kids. So it's actually a little bit difficult for me to watch them on a regular path. And I want to be like, no.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I'm putting them in it. So what's interesting is I'm starting something new in August. Actually, it is August. In 2 weeks, I'm going out for a training. Actually, starting September, I'm going to be a mentor for something called the Dream School Project. This incredible woman came up with this project that she has 50 mentors, and we'll be mentoring. We each get 10 kids from around the country to help them. This is like such a dream for me. Help them foster creativity and passion in a project to help them step out of line in school and stand out to get into colleges. So that was something that I could open the conversation with my kids for when I was accepted as a mentor, to be like, guys, look what I'm doing. And I saw my older son, who's 16, going to be a junior. And like, part of me is hard for me because I can't do that for him. I'm his mom. So I can't also play that role. But I know that I will have some different skills as a mentor that I can then bring back to him. So they do know that I never shut up about creativity and passion. They do know that I don't believe in the regular road. Like, they know that at parent-teacher conferences, I will flat out say to the teachers, sorry, but I don't care about their grades. I care about, they're also smart, good kids. I should add that. It's not like they're failing out. But for me, I don't want those kids who are getting an A and coming home with anxiety attacks, which I see a lot of. I want their self-importance there. I want their worthiness there. I want their own self-motivation there. So I don't care what you get on a grade. I want you to know that you put your all into it and you showed up for yourself. It's literally all I care about. So their teachers know that from me, and they're a little shell-shocked when I say that, but it's important for everyone around me to understand what I stand for, because then I'm being very hypocritical. Like, why did you get 100? I don't care if you got 100. Like, it's like that two sides of me, like old self and real self. Like, wait, where's this coming from? So it does keep me very conscious to walk my talk with them, which isn't always easy because mom mode is like, did you do your homework? Did you do what you're supposed to do? Stay in line. Yeah. What else do you want to do? What's a passion outside of school?
Yes. And you're so right. The anxiety attacks are happening so young, and it's ridiculous. And I remember in high school specifically how competitive things got. And there's no reason for it. And like,
also there's nothing good that comes from it because it's not self-motivated competition. That's beautiful. This is pure spitback.
Yes.
Did I get it? I didn't learn anything. I just got better than he did. There's a curve on the grade. Like,
it's tearing other people down.
Yeah.
And it's like, my grades really, truly aren't anyone else's business as long as I have like everything in mind for what I want to do with them.
Exactly.
Because really, at this point in my life, I realize how much school is a means to an end.
Yes.
Which is not right. It's not even something I would have thought of before, because I was just like, okay, obviously high school, obviously college, maybe after that more schooling. But like, by the time I was halfway through college, I was over it. And I think it's that inner entrepreneur in me was just like not wanting to follow the rules anymore. It was like, there's a better way to do this. And
I will never use math class. I just won't. I didn't use it when I was in math class.
No, and I got myself out of math in college because of the math that I took in high school. So I tried to work around as much as possible, which at the time I thought was a bad thing, but I was just like naturally trying to work around. And there's a reason for that. We all have our different paths. And so like, is that something you will talk to your boys about, is having different paths, or are they expected to at least try college, or what are your thoughts on that?
So that's the hard part, is there's still a part of me that I can't derail them because of what I believe. This is hard, just like with no turtle flipping. I have to find their own path, and they have to make their own decisions and own mistakes, whatever those are, which is very hard for me to step back and be like, no, don't do that. Yeah. I have to let them pick their electives and then hate the class and navigate not liking a teacher and not fix it. I like to fix things. So I'll guide them and see what I think is working for them. And then the rest of it, again, it has to be their journey. As frustrating it is for them, they are different than me. They're their own people. And I've had to come to terms with that as the teenager years have come, and they're still wonderful children and they're respectful of me. They are their own person. They don't like what I like. So I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do from muggle to unicorn. So I can't do unicorn to muggle. It's just not, it doesn't cross over. And even if it's a great road, if it's not your road, it's still not your road. So I could lay out this golden path in front of them. If it doesn't resonate with them, then they're still doing something they don't want to do. And I will not do that.
Right. Well, you had mentioned before, and I've seen it, that you take time to process things. And I don't know if it's, and you can talk a little bit about it if you'd like, but I don't know if it's the same amount of time every time, or if you do the same thing every time. But also, in addition to your processing, is that something that you've seen that your boys have maybe gotten from you, or are they more quick thinkers, like quick to take action? Not as, because I didn't honestly, until I saw you processing in person, and then right after the retreat that we were on together, I had never seen something like that before. And it like really opened my eyes, because now I've taken a little more time, especially with big decisions or big events, or if I feel just a little under the weather, it's like, I need to step back. And I think that's just awesome. I didn't know if there was like a process behind your processing, and if that's something that other people have kind of cut on.
Great question. Very great question. And thank you for that reflection, because I don't see myself like that. So I think for me, where it comes from is still a bridge between old me and real me. So I'm a visionary, a very quick starter, and I don't like details, and follow through just doesn't interest me. I'm already on to the next idea.
Right.
But obviously that's not a great functional thing. And then I used to think that I procrastinated a lot. I do procrastinate a lot, but the reason I procrastinate a lot is because it's my intuition. I used to think I was being lazy, and I would beat myself up about it. Why can't I just do? And like, we were on Adrienne's retreat. She's queen action taker, and it's beautiful because it works for her. But if I push myself to do something that I'm not comfortable in, or haven't thought about or figured out if I feel safe in it, if I think it's going to work, I can't push myself to it. I've tried, and I feel very unsteady. And then automatically, energetically, it's never going to work. For me, I take in what I do, and then I have to decide if it works for me. So it's sheerly intuition based, that the procrastination comes and is like, no, I hear everyone. That's great ideas. Everyone is right. I don't think it's a right or wrong, but until it lands inside of me as mine, there's nothing that can push me to do something. I'm stubborn as all hell, sometimes for myself, sometimes against myself. But that processing time is honoring what I think will work for me. Because again, the old self for so many years did what everyone else wanted, and well, that I'm very respectful of never doing that again, even if it may trip me up going forward, even if it does keep me from taking as much action as I would want to. Hopefully there'll come a time where that balance shifts a little bit, but until it does, I can't push it, because it's not going to be mine. And one of my drivers is everything must be mine. It has to come from me, feel like me, come out like me, no one else's words, no one else's ideas. I don't see it in my kids yet. I think they're a little young. They haven't really had a chance to make decisions like that. I hope to teach them that. I don't know if they observe it in me yet. I'm not sure how they see it. As they get a little older, I will definitely, try to talk to them about that. But again, that's someone's own process, because logically on paper, it's very surprising that I'm like that. You would think I would just be like, boom, whatever, because I'm not detail oriented. I don't care about perfection. I like things done, but there's a bridge there that must be mine over and over again. And until it is, I will sit on something happily, and I will marinate in it, and I will cook the egg. And it's frustrating for me. I'm not going to say that it's not. It is frustrating. There are times I'm like, why can't you just press go? Because I can't.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like we all go through that at one point or another. And that was how I was before that retreat. And so it was, after that, I had some momentum, and it was wonderful. And that's where this idea came from. And so that was great for me. But at the same time, I was like, man, should I be stepping back and processing? And that didn't come until later on, after I had, made some quick moves, which is.
I actually think it's a mix of both, like you just said. Like I have a podcast. The idea for the podcast came in the shower. The name for the podcast came in the shower. Within a few weeks, I had a podcast up. I knew nothing about podcasting.
Right.
I'm not techie. I've had the podcast since September and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's something that works, I go straight at it. I don't think about it. But when there are pieces that I need to sit on, so I don't sit all the time and I don't jump all the time. There is an ebb and flow. I do jump on opportunities when they feel completely in alignment. There's nothing that will stop me. I'll do whatever it takes to make them happen. And when something's still cooking, I'll check in on it. I'll open the pot. I'll stir. I'll add a little more salt, and then I'll close the pot again. I won't think about it.
Do you write, or is that something where you just think?
I wish I could say that I write. I don't do anything consistently. And I don't apologize for that. That's just me. I'm a rebel by nature. Even if I put a rule on myself, I'll just break it. Mm-hmm. So I'm very intuitively led. There are times I write and write and write. There are other times I just sit. There's other times I voice record myself. There's other times I draw. I do some sort of something usually, but it's just at the whim of whatever wants to come out. There are days I don't do anything because I don't want to it doesn't feel like anything needs to come out. So we just coast those days. I do my regular work. I watch what happens. I will hop on a live stream in a group. If I have an idea, instead of writing it out, I'll just vomit it out somewhere. It'll come out somehow. It'll go into a client call. Stuff always comes out, but I don't always capture it. Right.
Well, and I feel like if I don't write something down, I won't remember it.
Oh, me too.
Right.
But
sometimes, the things that you write down aren't great, or I write it down in random places and then can't freaking find it to save my life.
Yeah, and also for me, I've noticed, which is something I'm working on, when I write an idea out, it looks very flat to me, and it kind of takes the magic out, which is me. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I don't want to write it out because it's not finished cooking, and I don't want to lose it by writing it out, and I'm like, I don't like it anymore. So I don't want to do that. So I wait. That's when the marination time, unicorn stuff is going. Don't get in its way. Just let it torpedo around you.
Right. And I know that when we were on our retreat, we went through an exercise that you led that was it was based on a lot of things. And it was very emotional for me personally, as well as for some other people. With the art piece, you are very adamant that everyone is an artist. How did you start doing that yourself? Did that come at the same time as the magic in your life, or was that something that you eased into after the fact?
So art has been something I've been doing my whole life. When I was little, I painted. It's actually interesting. I cannot do fine art. So for years, I fought it, saying I'm not an artist because I can't do fine art. I have a painting that's hanging in my bedroom. That's from my high school art studio. The teacher put out like a still life. So it's like a bottle with a clock and a fabric. And the people in my class were what I call real artists, fine art, the detail. And I stood there in full panic mode, and I remember it. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So what did I do? I took bold colors and I rerouted myself. It's completely abstract. The bottle is huge. There's crazy shadings. For a long time, I felt very broken about that. I was like, I used an excuse and made something else. I got an A on it because she liked that I did something different. But I did something different because I couldn't do what she asked me for. And I carried it for a very long time. And it bothered me that I carried it. So I actually have it hanging in my room now because it reminds me that I was never meant to be in a box. So just because I didn't do what she asked me for, I did something that worked for me. And it took me a long time to flip that story. And it still bothers me sometimes. So I knew in that moment that everyone is artistic because I use the example, the way you prepare your food, you sign your name. It's different than a font. That's automatically artistic. You listen to different kind of music, it taps something in you. You, again, like different kinds of foods. You like different kinds of experiences. That's artistic. It's not about hand to eye to pencil to fine art. Nothing to do with that. Always loved art. I went to school. I did a year certification in art therapy because I knew there was more. And there's something about again, we can't think our way out of the places that we get. And I believe that art is something, because it's so freeing for me, there's something there. So I did a year-long certification, which I loved. I didn't want to work in it because the places were very depressing. They were very clinical, and either working with kids with cancer or patients with dementia. It didn't bother me. I don't mind it, but I wanted it to be more magical. So I tabled it for a while, but I knew when I started the coaching, it was going to come back in a way, because it's just the way that I think. Like, we did that workshop. I didn't plan any of it. I don't know if anyone in the room knew that. I had no plan whatsoever. And we were with two people who also, Adrian, who ran the retreat, and Marie, who taught at the retreat, who are the prep people. And they had slides, and they sent out PDFs for it. I'm on the plane thinking, crap, I did it again. I didn't prepare. What am I doing? I'm not good enough. I'm being like, I do this. I'm not the preparing type. That's not where my magic comes from. I watched everyone for a few days. We got there on Thursday. My workshop was Saturday. I had a lot of time to watch what was going on and what I felt everyone needed. I went upstairs to my room after we got back from our morning activity. We had about an hour. I sat down. I said, what am I doing? And then it just came in, and that's what I did. And had I planned it, it never would have been as wonderful for everyone as it was, because it would have been too contrived. It would have not been what everyone needed in the moment. So since that, it was a really great lesson for me to remember. I can skip the beating myself up over that I don't do it everyone else's way, because there's a painting in my room that reminds me of that. I don't do things everyone else's way. That's my way.
Right.
It doesn't have to look anything other than that.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's one of the reasons we were, all brought together, is because we all have different ways of doing things. And it's like, just for a few days, we'll just let ourselves into other people's worlds, just to see if maybe an unconventional way is what we should be trying.
It's also so beautiful to see everyone in their own zone of genius, where online we only get snippets of people's lives. It looks perfect, but together for 5 days, we saw people, I'm not going to say up and down, but on and off, chilled and excited, popping up to give a piece that they knew that no one else does. And it was just beautiful to watch the giving and the receiving, because someone in their zone of genius, whether it has anything to do with something I can do or not, is just so gorgeous to be around.
Yes, in person. Connecting online is a great starter, or connecting in between online is great. But like in person, ever since that especially, it's like, it's huge. It was like, I was explaining or describing it as, it was kind of like the first day of school when you get there, and then like you already have these best friends that
it was unbelievable.
Yeah. And then you can be completely yourself around. There's nothing else to it. That's what it was like. And I had a couple of really big moments on that retreat. One happened during it was a long moment. It was like a 2-hour moment.
Sorry. I like to keep people there.
And that's perfectly fine. And honestly, the artwork that I made during that time, as soon as I looked at it at the end, I was like, oh no, I messed it up, because I did the design on it backwards from what I wanted. But then I was showing my husband my artwork in the bathroom. I walked in when he was brushing his teeth, and I showed it to him, and it's in the mirror. And so it's backwards in the mirror. And I was like, I was meant to do that, to like,
I just got the chills.
It was so crazy. And I haven't shared that yet, but I wanted to share it with you, because I was just like, it was amazing to me. And something that could have seemed so small before, I would have just still been agonizing over the fact that, I messed it up.
And right there is where the magic happens, in that uncomfortable part, in the unexpected, in the, I didn't do what I was supposed to. We still think like that, or we still march in line. Even when we're out of line, we find a new line to march in. And those are where you get that, oh, it is mine. It is mine and no one else's. And I don't have to make an explanation or an excuse or permission from anyone. That's where you crank open.
Yes. And that's one of those things that I always almost constantly think to myself, if I were running a school, what would I want taught there? Like, what is not being taught in a normal school that should be regular curriculum? One of them, I think, self-confidence is not the correct way to be confident. There is no right or wrong way, I guess, but there's a way where people are full of themselves and tear others down. And I feel like that's a huge thing. And I'll ask you, where do you think in the child's mind, where do you think it happens where the word can't come in? Like, at what point
Ugh,
Do you think that
it's
happened?
heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking because that was my word. My art teacher used to tell my mom, I would spend the first half of the class saying, I can, and the second half making something beautiful. And that breaks my heart for myself, for my inner child. It's the whole like individuation, once we separate from our parents and then we figure out who we are, the only way we can figure out who we are is by looking at reflections. I'm not that, I am that, I'm like that, I'm not like that. I'm similar, I'm different. So it's like a fun house of mirrors. It actually has nothing to do with who we are inside. It's just who we are in relation to society. Yeah. And it's like, no.
Right.
And I'm 42. It took me all those years to remember that and figure that out. And like, my dad said they would go to school conferences. It was like an ongoing thing and no one understood why, because of course I could, but I didn't believe I could. So I couldn't. If you believe it, you can't. If you believe you can, you can. So it's very frustrating. I don't know if there's a way to teach it other than more focus on what do you think? What do you feel? Giving kids opportunities to give their opinion, to have more open conversations. I see from the way my kids' school is, which is, it's a private Jewish school. It's definitely a little more out of the box, although still structured, where there's a lot of group work. And in an education philosophy called scaffolding, which I believe works in life as well, which I think is why a lot of group programs work well, because in a dynamic of a group, it's proven, there's research about it, that a human will climb higher when achieving with other people. So they will push themselves, they will drive themselves when they have a role in a group. I am the reader, I am the processor, I'm the drawer, I'm whatever. And they show up more fully than they do for themselves because there's a group mission at hand. Yeah. And I think that work environments, even corporate, has moved more into that group setting where you're working on projects. It's almost like that Ocean's 11 feeling, like what's your specialty? What can you add? Instead of having to be the insular master of everything, which no one is, so that no one feels good enough and no one does anything. And that's when you start comparing. Yes. So I do think that group conversations, like I know in my kids' school, like they'll read a book and it's like, well, what's your perspective? There's no right or wrong. If you didn't like the book, that's fine. Why? Prove why you did. Write a paper all about why you hated this book. And right there, it gives the child back the ownership of, oh, I don't have to like it. I'm allowed to say what I feel. I just have to learn how to do it respectfully, intellectually, prove it, learn how to do the same structures around it. And I don't think we were taught that.
Right. I feel like it was very much right or wrong, not feelings weren't part of it, weren't part of a lot of things.
And it's right or wrong, and then you did this. Like, who else is raising their hand if they didn't like it? Like, am I allowed? We don't even, it's so reflective outwards. We were never taught to go, well, what do I think?
Yeah.
How sad is that?
Yeah.
I live by what I think now in every moment. What do I feel? Do I feel like doing this? Do I not feel like doing this? Does this excite me? Does this feel good? I forgot that for all these years.
Yeah. Well, and I recently have been thinking because on Netflix, a movie came out and I haven't watched it yet, but it's the Little Prince movie. And I read that book. And have you ever read that book before?
Yeah, I haven't read it in years. When I was little, yeah.
Yes, we read it in 8th grade with a teacher who I used to think was awful. I will openly say I didn't hate her, but I was just like, gosh, she's so strict. But it's because she was trying to get us to see the real meaning behind the book.
Which is annoying when you're in school because you're so used to just sit back. Just tell me what you want so I can give it back to you.
I was like, it's just a book about a kid. Like, there's like nothing big to it, but like she...
Don't make me think!
Right. But she taught us things. And then and it's things that I kind of like pushed aside, those things you try not to remember just because I was like, oh, that's so stupid. But you get to high school, and at my high school at least, they were it's either right or it's wrong. You have to follow these rules. We're never going to do a feelings writing prompt. We're only going to do SAT style writing and blah, 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 because we're preparing you for college, which half that stuff we didn't do in college ever. Most of that stuff we never did in college.
Exactly.
And it takes me, getting past high school, getting past college to then look back and be like, I learned more in 8th grade reading a book meant for younger people than I did anywhere else, because the rest of it I learned and done because I was against it. Like,
exactly,
trying to teach me in a way that I learned well.
No.
And that's another thing that I'm really trying to employ in my business is not everyone learns well through video. Some are better with audio.
Yes.
Some are better with reading. Like I love making videos, but I know some can be long. And I also don't like watching videos for the most part.
So interesting. No, but it's true. I mean, everyone learns differently, which is why it's very important in your business, I believe, to, like you said, mix it up. First of all, people get bored. So even if they like one way, they start zoning out. I mean, we all have that same little kid brain in there still.
Mm-hmm.
We may force ourselves to follow rules, but if it's disseminated in an interesting, exciting way that keeps your attention, keeps you on your toes, you're automatically going to learn more.
Right. Well, and I also feel like whenever you're forced in schooling, semi-forced, I guess, to pay attention to one thing for so long, and then you go into a traditional job and you're forced to pay attention to something so long, I don't feel like it's the internet or social media that is causing short attention spans. I think it's just, I need variety now because I'm in break time, or I just went through this and I'm in burnout mode. Yeah. Burnout mode is something that I don't experience as much anymore. And I don't know, how about you? How do you?
That's really interesting. I love that you said that, because I think that a lot of that ADD thing we all think we have comes from the fact that we are reined into, the gates of hell in life and have to follow certain ways. So our attention span has to be held. What's also interesting is, I think, the way I look at this is the philosophy of KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I think that has made society very stupid. We don't have to think anymore. We don't have to wonder. We can just, and I wrote copy for a long time, and I said this to all of my clients, I don't write copy like that. I believe in challenging clients, audiences, people that you're trying to speak to think. Because if they think, they meet you here, and then you get to go here, and then you go up. Instead of speak to them like they're morons and they don't know anything, spoon feed it to them, they have never have a reason to want to move out of being spoon fed. It's a comfort zone. Yeah. But I didn't understand that. Well, how did you think about it? Did anyone ask you questions? Did you get to use a different part of your mind? When we use different parts of our mind, we don't get bored.
Yeah.
We get intrigued. We have attention spans because it's like, I can then go ponder this. It's not spit back, one activity, or shuffle the papers from here to there. And I think that's attributed a lot to why we have no attention spans, because we'd rather just Google it and think about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Frustrated.
It's a frustrating thing to think about, because and I go back and forth with my copy because I want to be as simple as possible, but I have so much I want to share. And so it's like, I kind of like, I'll have like blocks where it's a little more, and then I'll have like, here's the main point. Like, I really like to,
because that's honestly, it's almost like you're writing the cliff notes for them. Like, for those who need more, here's more. For those who need it simplified, here's more. There's nothing, I don't believe in overcomplicating, but I think we have dummied down everyone, including ourselves, so much that's like the spark is gone from it. It's like, I'm already bored writing this. Why would anyone want to read this?
Yeah. And I actually read something recently. So like one of my idols, because I love film, is Judd Apatow. And people laugh at me because he makes these movies that are like guy movies, and they're like gross, and they're just, it's just like bathroom humor. But I love what he said. I love them, first of all, because I grew up a tomboy. I love them. There are many other things to them than just the bathroom humor. But what he said in his book is he can only tell this one story in one movie.
Yeah. So
he is going to say it the way he wants. And if that means it's 2.5 hours long, then it's 2.5 hours long. And that's the main complaint by people, is that his movies are so long and that you could cut parts out. And I used to say it before I read his book. I used to say that all the time. I'm like, I would have cut out this 20 minutes. I would have cut out bad interaction. But then if you look at it that way, it's like, I've since watched his movies again, and there's a reason. And it's because he's not going to go back. So much of your life, you can move forward and change and evolve, but you have a project and you want to say all that you want to say about it.
And you also, he's really honoring his own creative process, and he knows his people, will love it exactly like that. And he's not trying to make everyone happy. I mean, that's so many lessons in that is this is how he gets his message across. And if he shortened it for people who wanted it shortened, it wouldn't be his message anymore.
No, it wouldn't. So much would be,
we can all learn a
silence.
Exactly.
Even in the silence. So, it's something that I really took away and something that I'm able to bring up multiple times throughout my day, whether it's life or business, it comes up because it's like, yes, I used to be a huge perfectionist. So I'm working on just getting things done, but sometimes it means getting it done with a freaking poem on the sales page. Like, that's just how I want to do it right now. And so that's how you're going to get it, kind of thing.
The other thing is mixing it up for yourself and for your people. If you always do it exactly the same way, people just get used to it and they don't even read anymore. They're not even interested. I'm not saying you have to always mix it up. You're not a circus act, but show different parts of yourself. Sometimes it is more soulful. Sometimes it is more playful. Different projects bring up different emotions. Tap them all, excite them all with all of the working parts. Like, Erin can do this with me and she can do this with me. Mm-hmm. I like Erin. That's what we want.
Right, exactly. It's like and that's something that I get every time I see something that Adrienne Dorson puts out. I'm like, I want to read that, regardless of if I feel like I need this help right now or not. I want to read and I will read it. And I would love to be at that point. But right now it's like, I go back and forth between, do I want to do this work today or am I not? It's like making the decision between doing the work because when I don't feel like it, or like pushing through it and being like, well, this sales page could be completely different just based on my mood today.
And Adrienne's a perfect example because she is truly in her zone. This is the person that she is. Mm-hmm. She was like this in corporate. She was like this in college. She was like this in graduate school. She's like this in sports. She's being exactly who she wants to be. Yes. And people will challenge it and say, well, why are you always working? And she flat out talks about it because this is what fulfills her. She feels good. Yes. If it didn't, she wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. She doesn't miss her exercise. She doesn't miss her pup walks. She doesn't miss her time with Tyler. She does how it works for her. Even when on the flip side of people being jealous of it, they challenge it. She's not going to pull back because it makes other people uncomfortable.
Right.
That's her zone of genius.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what are things going to into the fact that you just said she doesn't miss things? What are things that you are non-negotiables in your life? What are things that you will not miss in your life?
Non-negotiable for me is newly my own self-care time. I am by nature not only a giver, but I'm an overgiver. If I could save the world this morning, it would make me very happy. So I've also,
you could,
and I will. So I've had to learn. I'm also very empathic, so I not only go into people's stuff, I go into people's stuff. So I take on people's stuff. I'm worried about people. I think about it. I plan about it. I carry my people with me. And it can be very draining on me. And there have been times in my life where it totally drained me to the point where I had to push away. So I've learned the more I do my work and the more I step into it, the busier I am, the more intense it is, the more time I need for myself. So last week, I booked myself a hotel an hour and a half away. I went to the beach for myself for 2 days. I didn't open my laptop. I don't do things like that. Yeah. I needed to unplug to get back into myself, and I had to refuel. So now this is very new. I just walked in I had a call early this morning. I left, I went out for a walk. I sat under a tree for 45 minutes. I listened to an audiobook. I had to in order to prep myself for this and for the client to have this afternoon. Before I would have just plugged through. But then there's I'm working on a quarter of a nerve. I don't have anything left. Everything's getting muddy in my head. I can't tell what's me and someone else. So my own time is non-negotiable now. My creative time is non-negotiable. And again, because I'm not structured about it, I can't say every Tuesday for 3 hours I sit and write content. That'll never happen. Mm-hmm. So I have to leave pockets of time to be like, is it now? Is it now? I check in, I look at I never book full weeks completely, although sometimes my calendar link does it for me. And I'm like, oh no. And I will move stuff around because I can't breathe if it's too full. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm going to lose myself in there. So, won't have as much to give if I don't give to myself. And this is really maybe like 5 months old, knowing that.
Yeah.
I ignored it for a long time. Like, I'm Superwoman. I don't need to do that. That was stupid and wrong.
Right. Well, and when I was younger, I still have never gone and gotten a massage before. And ever since I was younger, I thought you have to earn it or it has to be a gift.
We have these stories in our head. Or like, for me, look, a lot of my service comes, I'm sure, from worthiness. Like, the better I am, the more I deserve love. No, I deserve love because I'm a human being that was placed here. And I give love, I receive love. So I have to pull myself away sometimes to be like, it's your turn. I'm like, I don't need a turn. You do. I mean, I will out loud talk to myself.
Yeah. No, and that's great.
Even on the retreat, it's very unlike me. Old Shari would have stayed in the room the entire time, been on with everyone. I took time out for myself. There were parts of me that was like, it's not nice, it's rude, I'm walking. No, I needed to go upstairs and rest a little bit. I needed to not be talking the whole time. That was new for me to show up like that. Otherwise, I would have gone home totally drained, given all of me, and I'm like, for what? Who wins there? Nobody.
Right. Well, and I wasn't sure on that expectation. Like, I wasn't sure what to expect there because I was like, oh, I mean, maybe everyone just wants to hang out the whole time. But at one point I did. I went back to my room and I wrote. And part of me, very little part of me, was like, oh no, something's probably happening.
I'm going to miss something,
right? Or like in the mornings, there are a handful of people, most people in that group, that were waking up really, really early. And that's just not me. And so everyone is
either
3 hours of work under their belt.
They're on their 4th cup of coffee when you and I came downstairs.
Right. And that, I mean, at first I was like, I feel like maybe I should be adjusting, but it didn't last long because I know that I don't work well without at least 8 hours of sleep. Like, I need that 8 hours of sleep. And it's kind of like a selfish thought for me, but I feel like selfishness isn't a bad thing. And I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on selfishness and how do you use it in your life and business?
This took me a long time. I'm a single Jewish mother of 2 boys. Selfish isn't really one of the characteristics that comes into those. There's like self-sacrifice, maybe. That's about the closest thing. So I felt very guilty about taking time for myself. I felt very guilty about needing my time, even building the business, taking away from my kids. They were in school. I still felt guilty. Like, I should be prepping cookies. I should be, that's what they had beforehand. Being selfish has actually been the best part of the best thing that I've learned from my business so far, because it makes me a real whole human being. I have so much more to give. I didn't understand that the lines were being blurred when I wasn't selfish, when I was like, no, this is my time. This is my space. These are the times you can speak to me. Very hard for me to write even a contract. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. I answer people right away because it's just the way I am. But then you teach people how to treat you. Then all of a sudden you're being bombarded all the time. You have no boundaries. So boundaries are difficult for me because I don't like them, but I know that they're important. It gives someone else respect for me and my time, which helps them show up even more fully for themselves because I'm not carrying them. All these things have been very big lessons for me. Constantly I'm working on and reminding myself of.
Yeah. And
it's a doozy, but it's very important.
It is. And I feel like growing up, I was not necessarily taught, but like it just came up multiple times that selfishness isn't great, that you should be.
Look, also you're a twin.
Yeah.
So you're even more so equality, and everyone has equal time and everyone gets half a cookie. And, it's selfish if you wanted a whole cookie. Yeah. You have someone with your face who wants the other half of a cookie. Right? That would so mess with my head.
Yeah. And people ask me what it's like being a twin. It's like, I don't know any different. That is.
What's it like being an only person?
Right. An only person. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I think it took me a while, but it didn't take me too long. And I'm very grateful for that, to figure out that it's okay. This is in leaving my corporate job. That was like the first really selfish thing that I did, at least in my mind, because I put in so much effort, so much extra work. And I was just like, something's got to give. Like, there's something else out there. And I loved the people I worked with. I didn't want to let anyone down. And I was just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to work really, really hard and earn my way up. And it just,
and other people would kill for this job.
Right.
And, it's all the whole
Right. And I'm just like,
why am I not satisfied here?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it never enough? Yeah.
Yes. All of that. But you get to the point where it's like, obviously this is not meant for me. Like I tried to make it work. And I felt really bad putting in my notice. I put in an extra couple of weeks because of how awful I felt and how much I didn't want to leave them hanging. But at the same time, it was like, I'd been talking about it for a little bit. I would come home upset, or I'd work too many hours. And like, I'm not kidding. I have like all of this right here is white underneath it. Like I'm hiding it, but I'm just like, that was the kind of stress I kept telling myself. I'm not stressed.
Right.
But there's stress there. There is. Yeah. And with you, how do you handle stress?
Stress. So stress actually takes me back to my old self, because I go into like protection mode of, I got to fix something. Yeah. Stress is a real trigger for me. Mm-hmm. So I tried to, when I'm not stressed, create some stress habits so that when I am stressed, mm-hmm. I don't go into autopilot of cocooning or reacting or getting petrified and, going small. So for me, the more I pull the camera back on the story, the better it is. That doesn't mean stress doesn't come up. It comes up all the time. But the bigger picture I can see around the stress, the less I laser focus and get obsessive about it, because I can just, in survival mode of like, okay, if I just stare at it, it won't move. I can control this. So that is old habits coming back for me. I'm like, hold down the fort. Everyone get into their places. Like I cannot control things. Yeah. The only thing I can control is my reaction to them. So when I want to cry, I will laugh. When I want to buckle down, I will get out of the house. When I want to climb into my bed, I'll climb into my bed and read a book that I want. Like, for me, when stress hits, I have to find comforts. Otherwise, I don't feel safe. But I make them comforts that are effectively usable ones, as opposed to climb under my bed and make a pillow fort and just hide, because that makes me feel small. So it's like, what can I do right now to feel better? Dance to music. It's not going to take the stress away. It's not naive of like, everything's great when it isn't. What can I remember about my real self in a moment of stress that doesn't take me back to my old self? It's really that primitive.
Mm-hmm. I think, and that's another huge thing that I feel like I should be writing this down, but I'll remember things that should be taught in school is that you can't control a situation. Yes. You control how you react to it. And that's huge. And I hope that that's something that your sons are seeing.
I hope so too.
It's
messy here sometimes, but they're getting to watch it all.
Here's the thing. Every family, every house, everything is messy to some degree. 100%. I feel like my family's mess mainly showed itself in like me not keeping things clean and just like that's how it happened at our house, was just, and that's what we fought about the most was the mess. But it's like, you know what, families are different, we're all raised differently, but hopefully we can get these little nuggets of information. And for someone who has gone through such a transformation to be able to show through example to your kids, and then it's their decision from there.
Right. And you know what? I think a lot of these things don't have to be so complicated. It just has to get you out of where you are in that moment. We think everything has to be a big deal or has to be this grand declaration to the universe that I'm different. No, I just need to feel better right now so that I don't go back to who I was. That's it. If I think about it too much, it feels too heavy. So it's like, I don't like feeling like this. What do I want to feel like instead? Move me out of this right now. That's it.
Right. Okay. And this actually leads to a great spot, because you said if you think about something too much, it feels too heavy. Well, what I have in front of me right now is the Pivot questionnaire. It's the questionnaire that they use at the end of Inside the Actors Studio.
Ooh.
10 questions that I want you to answer rapid fire to close out our little chat today. All right. Ready. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Possibility.
What is your least favorite word?
Can't.
Okay. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Everything. Finding my own way, playing with things that I think can be moved. I like to move parts. If I feel like something's stagnant, then it takes away the magic for me. So anything that I feel I could lean into is automatically creatively, spiritually, artistically, all of that clay for me. So it's just, I look at everything like that, including the food in my refrigerator. Like, what can I make it look like?
I love that. What turns you off?
Rules, societal fears, a lot of have tos, big turn off.
What is your favorite curse word? It's got this.
It does it? It's just guttural. It just works for me.
Mm-hmm. I love it. What sound or noise do you love?
The sound of my children's laughter.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Nails on a chalkboard.
Oh. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Interior design is my other love.
I need you to come and decorate my room.
I don't know if you'll like being in it. I mean, it's funny. I dabbled in it for a while.
Yeah.
And I did make people's houses look normal. There was a little Shari touches, but I would call you.
No, I don't want normal. I don't want normal. So when we buy a house, I'm calling you.
I am flying over.
What profession would you not like to do?
Everything that includes sitting at a desk. Anything that includes sitting at a desk. Other than my turquoise desk and my pink chair. This doesn't count.
I love. Because it's a Shari space.
Exactly.
Okay, and here's the last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, I love that. Welcome. You didn't screw up as badly as you thought you did. That would make me feel good.
I love it. I love you, Shari. Thank you so much for being here and for trusting me. Thank
you. This was a blast. I love you. Asked me, is there anything, Erin asked me before we hit record, is there anything you don't talk about? I'm like, no, there is not. Ask me anything.
I love that.
It was such a blast. I loved your questions. I love you. I love what you're doing. I just love being on this ride with you.
Perfect. I love it too. And I can't wait. I'm hoping maybe that you'll want to come back for another show at some point.
Whenever you want me, I'm here. I would love to hop on.
Oh, I love it. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will talk with you later.
Take care.
Thank you so much to Shari Teigman for being on the 3rd episode of ChatConnect. You can find out more about Shari at www.shariteigman.com. And right now you can also join her waitlist for her brand new art experience at www.shariteigman.com/art-experiences. And I want you to know that this is something that is not to be missed because I have gone through one of her art experiences and it changed my life. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to me and please join the waitlist today. Thank you.